it's Ivy Slater, and you're listening to Her Success Story podcast, a show where gutsy businesswomen share their success journey. Hi, this is Ivy Slater. Welcome to today's episode of Her Success Story. I have the honor and pleasure of bringing a dear friend, a colleague, a business associate, and so much more. Amy Andersson is the owner and founder of Price Turner CFOs. She has an extra S in her name because she always is looking at the numbers, the dollars. She knows her numbers. As a chief financial officer for small and medium-sized businesses, she partners with owners as an extension of their business, acting as a trusted, reliable team member. Amy leads her financial knowledge to fit the small and medium-sized businesses she works with. She has a specialty around systems, as well as her financial background as a CPA, a CFO for many, many years. Amy, thank you for joining me here today on Her Success Story. I'm so excited to chat like on an official podcast versus as we just chat.
Ivy, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure to work with you over these years, and I can easily say that my success has been because of our relationship. With you as a business coach, I have grown so much more than I would have ever thought it was possible.
Thank you for that. Let's jump in because this is one of the usual. Amy and I have worked together for many, many years. The beginning of this company, what was your vision and how did it evolve for where the business is today? Because I think it's so often we say, this is our vision, and we get a little rigid with it. And I know myself in the building of Slater Success, I couldn't get out of my own way. So where was your vision? Where did you start? And then where have you built this to? Give us a little background here.
Okay, so my start with this company was literally, I've been laid off twice in 12 months. Once from
Ouch.
once from a major Fortune 100 company, and then also from a nonprofit. And at the same time, I had 2 kids in college. I was newly divorced, and I had to make some money, and I had no idea how to do that. So I started talking to everybody I know. I'm an extrovert, always been recognized as that. And my first non-paying client, I helped them with their systems and their accounting for a small company that they had. That grew a little bit. I helped the elderly folks. That was my original vision. However, that really wasn't working out either. They didn't trust somebody coming in and helping them with their financials. So I had to really pivot at that point and kind of say, okay, what am I good at? And with the negativity that I had in my own brain, which was really
because you had gone through, layoffs, and I know, there was downsizing in the companies. There was a lot of different things that had nothing to do. You had been with companies for years and years, but then you had this experience, and it carries with us. It hits our confidence. It hits our inner, that inner critic starts roaring, for lack of a better way.
And that was the issue that I had. I had no confidence in myself. I'd worked for major Fortune 100 companies and had led teams and everything else. And here I am out on my own, and I knew no one because I hadn't done that networking ahead of time, because I was working for a company and they would employ me for the rest of my life. That's not true.
Which was, let's call a spade. Back in our time, the way we were raised, our families, people worked for companies for their entire career. And then when you and I stepped into the business world in our early 20s, because we're in the same area age-wise, that's what we knew. You do something and that's your entire career. And that is not how business runs today.
It is not. It is. And this is what's important for people to realize is you have to make your own career, because a company is never going to look out for you. And when I went on my own, I did that because I was looking at all these companies to go back and go into industry, and I could not wrap my head around it. I just felt that, no, they're not looking out for me. I need to look out for me. And so that itself was a major change in my thinking, like you said, for 30 years.
Yeah.
And so by doing that, I really had to reinvent myself. And that reinvention was very difficult given the state where I was. So it was just a little bit and a little bit and a little bit that I gradually started getting that confidence.
So as you transformed Price Turner, and I know you went through several brandings, several evolutions, and yes, you moved away from working with the senior market into working with, first it was smaller businesses, and now it's small and medium-sized businesses. So your sweet spot sits in that, what, 5 to 20 million area, truthful?
Correct.
Like where are you today? Because that's a very different vision today than where you started.
Yes. So as you asked earlier, what was my vision? My vision was for me to be doing some accounting for companies, small companies. And I realized I was so much more. As I gained confidence that I could do more. And now what I've done is grown the team, grown the clients, and grown the team also. And that's been for two reasons. Number one, when my team members came on, and now I have 11 employees, and yes, they are employees, they need to grow themselves. So having them at the smaller clients is great for the first or second year. As we get to having those employees longer and longer, we need to challenge them also. And so we need to challenge them with more difficult business operations. And that really only comes not from the small employees, but from those medium-sized employees. So, or medium-sized businesses. So where we had started with that revenue of under 500,000, up to $1 million, up to 5 million. Now we are at the point to encourage our employees to grow, to give them job development at that 5 million to 20 million. As those companies grow, their complexities grow. As our employees grow, they need to know more complex. They need to continually learn also. And one thing that sets us apart during this whole time, when I started the business, not with the seniors because they didn't have computers, but when I started working with these small businesses, it was always virtual. We were virtual before everybody else was virtual. And why? Because I have the systems knowledge and the big industry, Fortune 100 companies who had those systems available. And I knew as computers systems got ready for the mainstream of people that we could do this virtually. So I have been virtual since the very beginning. I had Zoom before, I had a predecessor to Zoom. I had Zoom before, the world exploded with the pandemic. We were always on Zoom. So for the clients, it was a no-brainer. We continued meeting on Zoom. For my employees, nothing changed during the pandemic. They have all been in there working from their homes remotely. And so when the pandemic happened, business in our operations did not change. We still were using the systems.
Yeah, and I have to say, in knowing you the long time we've known each other, it's interesting because in your earlier days, there was a piece of education around a outsourced CFO bookkeeping company, right? Today, it is so common because everything from systems and technology has caught up with the outsourced financials in such a positive way. And then you seem to have taken that and work with your companies and your clients on even a higher elevated level because of your background in technology and systems.
Thank you. Yes, what we do is when we onboard a client, we look at what they are doing now. All right. And sometimes it is, we've had clients that have all been, direct. They've had an office manager or a bookkeeper who is in-house, and something happens and we take them on and we teach them how to be more efficient from the systems perspective. Also, though, as a CPA, I'm always looking at internal controls. And so we also look at that. So how can systems be utilized to ensure the controls are in place in terms of the approval process, in terms of the disbursement of cash? Cash is king for every single business, and we make sure it is done in a controlled environment, still using system, still documenting everything. And so for us, it is one of those, okay, how can we also make this efficient using system? Because again, my team they want to be efficient also. They don't want to just key in. They don't want to be data processors. They don't want to be straight bookkeepers. They look for the efficiencies that they can do. Downloading transactions, for example, setting up variance analysis, setting up rules, doing whatever is necessary to make their lives, their positions more involved with the understanding of the business, with the discussions with the CEO of the business, not just that straight bookkeeping, straight data entry. We're always looking for efficiencies, and again, always around control as well.
So what helped you? So you had mentioned, as we're talking, you had mentioned that being in corporate America, et cetera, for so many years, you hadn't built, a network. You stayed like with this focus of, this is my career. I will work for blank, for X amount of years until, I age out my whatever that looks like. How have you built a support system for yourself? How have you built a client-based? And I'm very curious, and I think it's great for our listeners. You started in one area and you have developed and grown so much and shifted. So one of the things I admire about you, Amy, is you jump in with 2 feet, but you don't sink to the bottom and hunker down there. You continue to look at the evolution and stay where things are leading. What have you learned in this way, like that we could share with others as far as building out your network and your own support team as well as your clients?
Well, from a support team perspective, my first hire was a VA because I knew I couldn't do everything, and I didn't want to do some of that. There were certain things. It's like, why am I doing
this work?
Yes.
That's why I hire out my books. I would do this work.
And so for that support, it's like, okay, what I told people early on was, look at what you do. Have 2 columns. As you have a business, write down in one column what it is that you like to do. And in the other column, what it is that you don't like to do. And if you don't like to do it, then don't. A lot of business people don't like to do business development. Well, guess what? You can hire that person. They can be part-time. They can be an employee, or they can be an outside person. If you don't like accounting, guess what? You can hire that person. Thank you very much, Amy Andersson, Price Turner CFOs. If you don't like social media, right? Hire somebody to do it for you. That gets back to, how do you do networking? As you said, I didn't do it. I laid off. I'm trying to start a new career and kind of going, okay, I talked to everybody I knew. If I was, my first, as I said, my first non-paying client, because it was my first client type of deal. I'm like, okay, can I do this? It was a kind of an experiment. I met on the dog field. I was walking my dog. She was walking her dog. We started talking. I will talk to everybody. I am an extrovert in that respect. And we've become great friends. And, it is just that ability to talk to people, ability to network wherever. And so I asked my realtor, because as I said, I had a new home when I got divorced. So I asked my realtor, hey, I'm starting this business. Do you know of any networking? He invited me to one. That led to me meeting with somebody who led me to my first paying client, who I still have. The whole process of networking is to let people that know that you have a business. More importantly, though, you have to do a pay it forward. So if you find out what they do and you have a good referral for them, doesn't matter if they don't give you one. If you pay it forward and you're promoting other people, it all comes back, and it comes back threefold. If you have that ability to say, hey, I know someone who needs your services, don't expect payback from that person ever. That payback will come from somewhere you didn't even know.
Yeah, I talk about, as you know, I talk about energy out and energy back. And it's just this concept of when you put energy and forethought into doing something, you're not going to necessarily receive from that same direction. You will, though, receive back at, in multiples. But you have to be out there. You have to be putting that energy out.
Right. So the other thing I want to say from the networking perspective is it is totally relationships.
Yeah.
When you're dealing with somebody in a business such as yours, Ivy, in a business such as mine. This is not transactional based. So you have to develop those relationships. And to do so, you have to get involved in networking. Networking is not handing your business card out at a function and expecting everybody to call you back. That's never going to happen. I'm not sure if it ever did, but it definitely doesn't happen anymore. What you need to do, though, is get involved. As we said, put it out there, help other people. And if you get involved, like I'm involved, very much involved with two major networking organizations here in the Philadelphia area. I'm on an ambassador committee with one. I'm the head of a committee with another one.
So you're not just showing up for a meeting, you're getting involved in leadership.
Yes.
And that's what you're saying is one of the differentiators. And I mean, I agree with that 1,000% is, again, that energy out as you lead and as you're seen as a leader, you're gaining more visibility, more respect. People are getting to know you, not just your company, but who you are and how you work. And that brings an attraction of truly wanting to do business.
And the easiest way to get a new client is through a referral, because that person, as you mentioned, already knows, likes, and trusts you. You've got a relationship with that person. So when they give you a referral, that person automatically knows you have the integrity that their colleague has referred you. So they already know what type of a person you are. And what you do does not matter to that person until there's a relationship. Yeah. Also, what you do doesn't really matter as long as you do it well.
So one of the things that I've found interesting in the growth of your business is so often we talk about what niche market are you in? What niche market are you in?
Mm-hmm.
And your clients are all over the place. How does that work? And how does that work for you and the company? And where's your common denominator?
So medium and small, medium-sized businesses are in so many different industries, right? And yet accounting for them all is the same. We do the accounting, but that's not what's important to the business owner. The business owner wants to know, are they going, where are they from a financial perspective? They have issues. Well, that's the common denominator. They all have the same issues. Number one, cash flow. If they've got enough, that's great. But they always want to know that they're spending and what they're spending and what is it on. They also want to know client profitability.
Sure.
They want to know product profitability. Many times, their systems are not set up to do that. I have a client now that when we looked at their detail systems, turns out that they were able to provide some client profitability and some product profitability. However, the numbers were wrong. So
Ooh.
the data is actually incorrect. So you have to look at everything from a holistic perspective and start back at what is the data input? And if it's garbage in, then it's garbage out. And we were able to identify it and go, okay, so let's make sure that is correct. So therefore, we will have the correct profitability at the end. Overall, the financials were fine. They weren't what the company needed, though, to make strategic decisions. And that's where
And
that
I think that's the crux here
yeah,
is people like, I have to get my finances that, I have to hire somebody or like we have a department or whatever it's looking like for my finances, right? But you just hit the nail on the head of how this knowledge is for the leadership in their decision making in running their company.
exactly. And that's what they're well, that's what the missing piece is. And that's what we provide is that trusted advisor. So we can say, hey, when your cash flow is here, your profitability is here, your, you know, your employees are here. But overall, what are you looking at? Where is the strategy? Are you going, what is your view for the next number of years? We provide that forecast for them. That's easy. How do we get there? Is it true that you're going to be, if they're a $5 million company right now and they're going to be a $10 million company, they're not going to automatically go from one year to the next at 10 million. It is going to take some time. And how do they do that? And what are the ramifications when they do that? That's as that trusted advisor, we help them to say, okay, you're going to need to have X number of volume or an X% price increase. Oh, and by the way, if you increase your volume, you probably have to increase your sales force, which is going to increase your sales commission expenses. And it is all interconnected.
So I have to ask you, as leading Price Turner and growing this company from one-off solo to a team of what do we have now?
11 employees plus me. 12
11.
employees, so an even dozen right now.
Okay. To the wonderful dozen versus the dirty dozen. What has surprised you in leading this or building this?
Wow, that's a good question. One of the surprises is for us, and I think it's because we have integrity as our first value.
Okay.
And that's a lot of who we are. That when you hire people, you have to make sure that they have the same values as you. And working in corporate America, it wasn't always that way because you got some of the values, but because there were so many people, it wasn't as critical. With a small business, it is absolutely critical that your employees have the same values, that they love the culture. Especially as I said before, all of our employees are remote. So that adds an extra level of overseeing and management and where to should I say let go, not micromanage, right? We've got to macro manage here. We're not there every single day. And so it's important to see that. The other thing is it sounds trite, but what we do as a company, we do well, right? We do it where we are not the bottom dollar people. we do it in a way that our clients really appreciate it. And over the years, that's what we have been able to show is our value to the clients. And for the client who's looking for a potential client who's looking for the bottom dollar that they just want the cheapest, that's not us. There is a whole market out there for people who they want to know, and we provide that value, and it is very well accepted. That lack of confidence that I had at the beginning of my career, it's no longer there because we're able to say, yeah, we do this. We're not going to be the cheapest, and that's okay. We won't be the most expensive either. And we can do this as your trusted advisor, as your partner.
Yeah. And I love how you guys partner and you are the trusted advisors of the CEOs and the leadership. And, your numbers really do give you the ability to make smart strategic decisions. And when you have somebody to work with on that, that's a home run.
Mm-hmm.
So last thing I'm going to ask, one tip you might have for businesses who are growing, scaling, possibly a business who has not worked has had an in-house financial department, but there's opportunities and things are changing. What's the one piece of advice you would give?
Ooh. I've got so many going through my head right now. I'm like, okay, you want one. So the one is there are great advantages to outsourcing the role. First of all, because someone who has been in-house probably has not kept up with technology. I have an example of someone who has had the same bookkeeper for 10 years. And it was working fine until that person just quit on them. And they had no idea what that person had been doing because it was rote for that person for so long. When we onboarded this client, we were able to provide such efficiencies that even though it had been in-house before, the efficiencies from a systems perspective, the efficiencies of looking at things, because we deal with multiple clients all the time. So we know the systems, we know the efficiencies. We're constantly improving our techniques, and the software is always changing. So
Yeah, that's true.
Take a look at potentially outsourcing because it may save you money in the long run. Because again, efficiencies are out there. AI is doing a whole bunch of things, good and bad.
Yes.
It's available to a lot of people. And again, it's not just AI, it's more of, do you know the systems and can you improve on your processes? Because it's always continuous improvement, always continuous improvement.
I love it. Amy Andersson, Price Turner CFOs, thank you for joining me here today at Her Success Story.
Thank you so much, Ivy. Looking forward to speaking with you again.
Absolutely. And listeners, take a moment, and I'll always say this at this point, take a moment and take a breath and think about if you listened in, what was impactful for you? What are you taking away from this conversation Amy and I had? And what can you use to take that forward for your business? Write it down, make the commitment to yourself to implement. You have questions, always feel free to reach out. If this was helpful, share it with others. We want this ripple impact that is helping other businesses scale, leaders be great leaders, and women always being the best we can be. And as Amy shared, she was against a lot of odds early on, and she worked through this to make this company an amazing company with a full team and making a big impact. So no, listeners, the world is our oyster and we can have anything we want. Thanks again. Stay tuned for more great episodes on Her Success Story.